All right, guys, welcome back to another episode of Within Tolerance. This is episode 51 with Dylan and I. And first things first, I'm going to shout out next week is our 1 year of doing this podcast. Actually, it's a little bit less because we've had a couple episodes, 2 episodes in a week, but we have John Grimsmo coming on. So that's very exciting. He was very enthusiastic about coming on, especially for our 1 year. And so feel free to start hitting us with questions, in the DMs and all that. That's going to be a really long and really fun episode. So I'm looking forward to that for sure.
Yeah, it should be a lot of fun. And actually, one thing I forgot to put in our uh, overview right here, but somebody reached out today, Tim Brown. So I guess he just found the podcast, and he's only listened to a couple episodes of it, and he said, we should start plugging, who we are and what we do, like a little intro at the beginning for everybody new that's out there, because he was like, I only know your first names and I have no idea like even what your Instagram handles are. And so I think we've got kind of used to having a lot of listeners that have listened to us for a long time. So real quick, we are both small shop owners. I'm Dylan. He's Payton. I'm Proteum Machining on Instagram, Proteum Mach, MACH, and he's BrickTactical and BrickTactical.mfg. And we both run small shops, and this is kind of the podcast where we just go into trials, tribulations of being small shops and growing, and the pains that very often come with that. So
Yeah. And Dylan's in Arizona and I'm in Washington State. Everyone thinks we're in the same state.
yeah, well, I think it depends. Like there's machinist therapy hotline. They're across the world, whereas like Lathe Night podcast, they go over to one of their houses and do it. So I think that
Yeah.
all the podcasts kind of span across the globe, which is kind of cool.
Yeah. We'll have to do that kind of introduction every couple episodes just to update people.
Yeah, definitely. But
So I guess I'm going to skip one of our normal things, which is going into what we have been up to, but RIP IMTS.
yeah, I mean, I think we talked about it a few episodes ago. Like I kind of figured once all of this started in March that it would be done for. So
Yeah, I
I,
agree.
I'm bummed that I don't get to see all my Insta Machinist friends that I haven't seen in a few years, and get
Yeah,
to
and maybe meet me. That's a questionable thing.
yeah, sure, meet you, sure, yeah. Yeah, I was looking forward to getting to hang out with you and Easton and Andrew and everybody that said that they were going to come, and but we'll just have to go to the next one, or maybe there'll be a makeup one next year, or I don't know. We'll just have to kind of play it by ear, but yeah, it's a bummer for sure.
I don't know if they're gonna do like wait and see what happens and do it next year, and then so it'd be 2021, and then the next one would be 2023, or if they're trying to keep it on like even years. Like I don't know if it's gonna be 2 more years we have to wait. I don't know how they're gonna do that.
Yeah, I'm not sure. I know a lot of people. I think on the Discord we're talking about. This is kind of like the death knell for trade shows, anyways. Like, there's so many other
Yeah.
industries that have kind of done away with that, or they're like a shadow of what they used to be. So I'm hoping that that's not the case, because I really enjoy IMTS. Like, it's such, especially like when you're just getting into this trade, it's like so eye opening. Like, I remember my first one was just like I was there for, I think, Monday through Thursday, and just was blown away. So I hope that they don't do away with it, because it is just so cool. But I guess on one hand, I kind of understand why people were pulling out. Like, it is such a giant cost for
Yeah.
possibly not a big payoff. I don't know. It's a bummer though, for sure.
Yeah. I mean, I'm having to weigh that with my Lego stuff because like I normally do all these conventions and like we're still waiting to hear. There's this one big one in Virginia, and I think in like a week we'll know if it's going on. But even if it goes on, I don't think I'm gonna want to fly across the country and spend all that money and have potentially a low turnout. Like I just don't see that being smart right now.
Yeah, yeah, that does sound like, yeah, especially now it seems like it could be a loss overall. And it's funny that you say the whole Virginia thing, because it truly has been a year since we started this, or nearly, because I remember you talking about that last year. So it's
Yeah.
funny to hear things like that start coming back up. Um,
Yeah, that is weird.
yeah, and I mean, I guess the silver lining I'm trying to look at with the whole IMTS thing is like that's one more week this year that I can just push hard and make money and all that stuff. September's never a slow month for us anyway, so it just means I get to make more money that week, I guess.
Well, and I feel like this whole year, even if it was going on, if it was going on, I still don't know if I would even go. Um, and I think that's a lot of people were in that boat. And now that the fact that it's not going on, I don't know. This whole year's just been weird, and I don't think people are too shocked by it. And I think everyone's this year, it's like just get by. Like I wouldn't be worrying about a trade show right now.
Yeah, yeah, totally. Um, yeah, it is what it is. So, but how are things going for you? Still printing like crazy, or are you back to machining, or?
I haven't done any machining for a while. It feels like I've been, I don't know what it is, but last month was probably my best month like ever in my whole history of being in business, which is awesome. Like, for example, normally, well, I'm so used to getting like maybe a couple orders a day, maybe getting like, I don't know, in 7 days, maybe get like 10, maybe 20 orders, right?
Mhm.
And just yesterday, I got 20 orders in a day. And I'm just like,
Oh,
and it's like consistent. And I don't know what's going on. And it's funny because I have like probably 75 products that are out of stock and people are still finding stuff to buy. I'm trying to think. I'm like, what are these people buying? Like, I don't all the good stuff's out of stock.
that's
And so
crazy.
like I've been working all day on this giant restock list of parts I have to order to get printed. Um, and one thing I want to clarify, because I had someone reach out to me and ask about my UV printer, because I was talking about it 2 weeks ago. And the UV printer, it's not a 3D printer. It's a picture like an inkjet printer that can print on three-dimensional objects. So, you can't put paper or you can't put a Lego brick through your, brother inkjet printer. And so this takes, ink, it deposits it on the actual substrate and then cures it with a UV light, hence the name UV printer. And it's super durable. It's not a sticker. It's not a decal. It's not painted. It's super accurate. And that's what I use to take blank Lego parts and turn them into, let's say, a World War II American soldier or something like that. So I just wanted to clarify that. But this list is huge. And part of the reason it's so big is I'm now, instead of doing like 20 of each figure, I'm going to just jump to 50 of each, which there's going to be a lot of inventorying and a lot of money in inventory now. But the way I look at it, okay, for talking sake, let's say you have a Lego figure, right? There's three parts. You have the legs, the torso, and the head. And just for talking sake, let's say each one of those is $1 at my cost, which sometimes it is, sometimes it's less, sometimes it's more. But for talking purposes, that's $3. Okay. Times 50, that's $150. That's just in cost of the parts. That's not printing or labor, but I much rather inventory a couple $100 worth of figures for just one part number or one figure. And then if I sell it for $15 to $20 a piece, I only have to sell like 20% of that lot, 10 figures, and that whole other 40 figures is paid for and is just profit. Um, and then I don't have to set up and make them every couple weeks. It's, I'll make them every 3 months. And I just think that's just such a smart move on my part.
Yeah, yeah, I definitely agree. And
So
I
I'm
mean, it
trying
seems like
to,
it's kind of labor intensive setting it up just right. So if you if you're going to set it up, you might as well set it up once and make, like you said, a decent lot size.
yeah. So I'm just, you gotta weigh those options because obviously some of these parts are more expensive than others, and you know how much do I want sitting in inventory? But then again, the sales I think are going to be justified with how busy my website's been. So I think I think between I'm going to be doing larger lot sizes, and then once I get all this stuff back in stock, I'm going to hook up and buy that subscription for the inventory tracking and alerts. And
Good.
between those two, I think I'm really going to start killing it here.
Yeah, that's awesome, man. So maybe instead of a new machine, a new UV printer might be in your Christmas wish list.
Yeah, that or I'm also okay, it's like my other thing, it's like I thought about outsourcing some UV printing to my old company I used to do it through, but then it gets to like, cuz this UV printer, it's ridiculously expensive in like maintenance. And I'm starting to understand why like, you know, yes, back in the day I was paying probably $8,000 worth of printing every year like sent out. And that's why, I looked at it. I'm like, well, if the machine's 30,000, like that's only 3 years or so, 3.5, 4 years of printing, and I basically pay for it. But then it's like, I didn't realize every 8 months to 6 months, you have to pay $1,500. And then, the ink, and then these consumables. And it's, you know, so I'm trying to figure out how can I maximize. It's just like a CNC machine, right? This thing has a table that's 10 inches by 18 inches. And I've only used this machine for like the first, like maybe 6 inches squared on the front left corner,
Oh
where it's
wow.
got a full 18 inches long. You know, it's the same thing with a, mill. Why put one vise when you could put three? So I need to make a fixture plate for this thing so I can print, 50 figures at a time versus five with, or something like that.
Yeah, I mean, you could have like permanent stations set up for different. Well, like if you've got that much travel, you could set up your, I don't know, three or four of your top selling items and have them permanently set up, and then have like one or two stations that you vary, for your other lower selling items.
Yeah. So I need to brainstorm and get smart about that because I'm leaving potential on the table here right now.
Yeah, for sure. And then for anybody listening who doesn't, is still unclear what the UV printer looks like, Strange Parts on YouTube. I don't know if you've seen his channel, but he until all this happened, he was living in China as like I think he was an English as a second language or teacher or something like that. And he would go around to all of these factories or component markets and do deep dives on them. And one of them was on UV printers, and like this entire company in China that makes UV printers. So if you want to see more and see how they're built and see what they do, go over to Strange Parts on YouTube and check out his video.
Is that the guy that printed on like the laptop?
Yeah,
Okay. Yep.
yeah. He's got a bunch of really interesting videos. He's like made his own iPhone from parts that he
Yep.
bought
Yep.
in the markets there. He made it his own Android. He, all kinds of stuff. He hacked a what is it, a headphone jack into the iPhone 8 or 9, whatever the first one was without the headphone jack. He hacked one in there. So he's got a bunch of really interesting videos, and because he is based in Shenzhen or pretty close to it, he's got access to like, every single part you could ever want for anything. So yeah, anyway, check that out if you want to check it out. But that's awesome, because right now you're using 3D printed jigs, right, for the Lego men.
I'm actually using Lego parts, which works really well because of how accurate they are.
Oh my goodness, that's really cool. Actually,
Yeah.
that's way smarter.
Yeah,
Yeah,
I just took one of those giant base plates that have just the grid pattern of studs, the little dots, and the printer comes with this sticky tack mat that's like the full 10 by 18, and I just put it on there and I can just build whatever fixture I want.
that's awesome. That
So
is super cool.
it works pretty well.
How do you register it? Is it like a CNC where there's like a work offset or something like that?
It's ba That's a good question. It's in the software, you basically have your bed, and then you just manipulate your designs wherever you want them. And what I it's really I don't really know if I would assume the origin would just be like the left corner of this table. And that's kind of what I go off of. And you basically just measure, your table and figure out where your actual part is on the table. And then you can draw lines and sketches on this software and, put your design centered up or whatever. And what I do, which is kind of a secret, so I don't know if any of my competitors are listening to this, but is you take clear packing tape, put it over your parts, print, look at it. If it's not lined up, no big deal. Take the tape off, change it, and then print. And that way you're not wasting parts.
Oh, that's genius. I was just about to ask if you had to test print parts. That's super smart.
Yeah, so I go through rolls of clear packing tape.
Well, then, yeah, you definitely got to get a fixture plate on there that's permanently mounted, because then you could, you could even or not 3D print. You could UV print whatever you're going to print on the Lego men on your fixture plate. So like every time you put a Lego down, you know exactly what you're getting if you like forget what the location is or something like that.
Yeah, seriously. And I even got the drawings. I need to find it in my email of the table, like the actual um like the blueprint for whoever makes this for the company, and they've got 2 quarter-inch dowel pins. It kind of sucks that it's like picture a piece of paper and you've got two dowel pins like where a 3-ring binder would be, like they're both on one side. It's not like they're opposite sides, which kind of sucks.
Oh yeah,
Um,
that's weird.
but I can make something work.
Yeah, yeah, for sure. I mean, you've got a machine like a
Yeah,
CNC machine that is
exactly.
perfect for that. So yeah, that's awesome.
Yeah.
Well, cool. I'm glad to hear you're staying super busy then.
Yeah. So what about you?
We are so busy. Our one of our biggest customers who like we hadn't heard from since I don't know mid March or something like that.
Is
And
this
like
the one that like disappeared?
yeah, yeah, like they disappeared off the face of the planet. Like I would email them once a week or once every other week and just be like, hey, just so you know, we're still open. And every time they were like, okay, thanks, and then wouldn't hear anything from them. But they sent us 2 quotes last week that are both due this week, so I'm rushing through those. I've got a bunch of orders still on the books. I think I don't know, I've got eight orders that I'm currently working on, something like that. So I'm running around like crazy.
Is it all one-offs?
uh sort of, yeah, more or less. Well, one set is like electronics housings that there's I think sets of 25 of each of the parts in that. One of them's 2 part numbers, both are 3 count. One or some more of those grill parts and some more parts for him. Um, yeah, it's for the most part like onesie twosie stuff though.
Oh, random sidetrack note. I got an email from one of my local customers, and I haven't heard from them in a while because they're working from home. They're just a big enough company where they had to send their engineers home to work from home.
Hmm.
And they sent me some parts, and like I told you, these are the helicopter company parts that I've done. And they're like, yeah, so here's some parts, like just give us a total guess of a price. Like we just need to know like roughly what these would be. Like we're not going to hold you to it. And I was like, oh well, that's really a deep channel, and like I'm going to need a thread mill, and I've never used a thread mill before, but I'm really kind of excited about that. And they're like, yeah, okay, thanks for the pricing. Like, this is for like Lockheed and the F-16 replacement part project. And I'm like, oh, that's sick.
That's super cool. Oh,
So,
speaking of jobs too, so I talked about last time that job that I was hoping to have total hands off, pick it up from the laser, drop it off at
oh, yep.
coding. It has not gone at all to plan.
Uh-oh.
Literally everything that could go wrong has gone wrong. So I picked him up from laser, and there was little like nipples on the inside of every one of them. That was a plus 5 minus nothing dimension. Or no, plus 10, I guess. Plus 10 minus nothing. So plus minus 5. Um, so I ended up having to make soft jaws and recut the inside of all of them so that there was no more nipple. The outside was totally fine. It looked like they had already maybe not scotch brighted them, but like wheeled them or something like that to
Uh-huh.
T-bur the outside. So that was already a time suck, and it wasn't too much, but it was maybe an hour and a half, 2 hours worth of stuff. And then I sent them off to plating, and there's only one place in town that does the zinc plating to that spec. And so I sent it off to him. We picked it up. Brad didn't really look at it because he was in a rush when he picked them up. And I go in and do 100% inspection on 100 parts. And of them, probably 2/3 of them all had the zinc plating chipping.
Oh, geez.
Yeah, and it's zinc plated for corrosion resistance, so it's not like I can send that off to my customer. So I dropped them off last Friday, I think, to have them stripped and recoated, and I'm just hoping and praying that in stripping them they don't knock the center bore oversize or anything like that. But
How
it's
does
been
that work?
what do you mean?
The stripping process.
I have no idea. I
Okay.
know it's some kind of acid bath. Like they're supposed to acid etch them anyway for uh, that kind of zinc plating, but I have no idea what kind of acid bath they have to use. I don't know how long it sits in there. At this point, I don't really trust them to do anything right. So I'm like super struggling to find a decent plater around here. I just have put out an email yesterday to a place in Phoenix and still haven't heard back from them. But pretty much I don't trust this company at all anymore. And it seems like going in there, like they do mostly just chrome stuff for like automotive, and like they advertise that they can do, electroless nickel and zinc and all these, uh, aerospace level stuff. But like, I don't know, nothing about them has given me any warm fuzzies about using them again. So I'm gonna have to find somebody else that can do it. If anybody listening out here knows somebody that can do quick turn stuff, I mean, the reason that it came up again is that right after I dropped these off for the second time, I one of my customers reached out and was like, "Hey, we've got a rush order of like 140 of these little parts that are brass that need to be electroless nickel." And I was like, "Oh well, let me reach out and try to find a new supplier." And then they come back and they're like, well, like what's your rush, or what's your estimate of turnaround time? And I was like, I don't know, 2 weeks maybe. And they're like, oh, we're looking for them in 5 days. I'm like, well, I don't know of any place right now that would do like a 2 day turnaround on nickel. So
It
it's just,
sounds like that company might be, you know, trying to take on jobs that they're just not fit for. Like you said, it sounds like they're really good at what they do, maybe in that other field, but maybe they shouldn't have accepted your work.
yeah. Yeah. And then I know there's one other place in town that technically does all that stuff, but I had worked with them at a past job and they are just like absolutely horrible. Like the guy who runs it is just mean and like just like a really mean person. Like every time I've gone in, I've like just walked away and been like, I don't want to ever talk to that guy again. And like they've like burned parts before, saying that it was like, oh, it was your fault, you used the wrong material, blah blah blah. And then we looked and it's like, no, you guys just used the wrong methodology. So it's really what it comes down to is Tucson is just a terrible place for any kind of coating besides anodize and chem film. Like I've got a good anodize and chem film house, and like that is the only thing that I can promise my customers at this point. Oh, and paint. I know a really good paint shop too, like for aerospace grade paint.
Yeah,
But
and that's like you said, you gotta just be, you know, even if that 140 part job's appealing, you just gotta be honest with them and be like, I can make them, but, like, I can't do the full job here."
yeah, yeah, and I'll find a good place in Phoenix, I'm sure, because like there's a million places in Phoenix that all do that stuff, but most of them are certified for all the aerospace companies in Phoenix, and so they have like even their rush orders take a week and a half or something like that. So we'll see, but it's frustrating, especially when it was supposed to be such a cakewalk job. Like, but I learned the laser place was good. It's just I didn't know what to expect as far as the quality coming off their laser, and now I do. And as far as that plating shop, I just probably won't use them again.
I remember you sent me a picture of the little nub that was left, you know, I have the problem sometimes with parts and fusion. Let's say you have a bore that you're cleaning the inside up with an end mill, and you have that little entry line.
Hmm.
Um, and I just will duplicate that and just select a different spot of that circle to entry and just basically do a spring pass um, to clean that up. I'm wondering, do you think they could have done that with the laser? Just basically did the same profile cut, just starting it somewhere else?
I think it was more that that's where like it broke off the sheet,
Oh, okay.
like that, like when they route out the center of those washers, like that's the part where it just fell off and like it couldn't cut anymore.
Okay.
And so like maybe there's ways around that. Maybe they could have slowed it down. Maybe I don't know. I've never run a laser. Um, I just know for next time. Like next time I'll have them leave more stock and I'll just plan on cutting things afterwards. And like it'll still save me time and save my tooling, but I'll factor that into the price.
Yeah.
So it is what it is. Like it, yeah, I don't know. It was just frustrating because it was the second job for that same company in a week where I pretty much lost my ass because I had those and then I had these other ones that I was going to do the turning on my lathe, and they were plus two thou minus nothing. And I thought my lathe was good for that, but like over the 4-inch length, I had about 3 thou of taper, and
Oh
I didn't
shoot.
have a test bar to dial everything in. And thankfully, Easton stepped in and was able to rush the order for me and did some great work. So uh, thanks to him, definitely. And but yeah, it was a frustrating week for that customer specifically. But otherwise, things are going really well. Super busy, staying busy. Haven't gotten really any time to work on the projects that I need to work on. Orange plate's still sitting. Thankfully, I'm waiting on my vices to come back from them lasering them, so I'm using that as my excuse on why I
I was
haven't done
about
it
to
yet.
say I'm about to get real mad at you here. Be
it's
like,
a
I'm gonna come to your shop and I'm gonna take that from you.
it's a total cop out. Like I really should have put it on by now, but I'm using that as my excuse is that I don't have my Delta vices back, and I'm sticking to it. So,
Oh
and
my
then
god.
my TSC is almost done. I just got the last, not the last MS or McMaster order, but probably the second to last McMaster order for that. I just need to plumb everything up to the tank and then figure out what length of extension I need to put the filters in the tank, and then I'm done with that. Um,
Awesome.
and then I also plumbed up a washdown nozzle this weekend, which was nice and easy and saved me, I don't know, $500 over the option from Yamazin, which was fantastic. Uh, yeah. So otherwise, we're staying super busy and things are looking up.
Yeah, what was I gonna say? Oh yeah, so my cousin is moving to, where is it? It's like 2 hours north of you, like closer to Phoenix. Prescott, is it?
Okay, yeah, that's even more north of Phoenix.
Okay. Or no, it's not. What is it? Uh,
Chandler.
I can't remember. But anyways, he's moving like in. They'll be gone in like 2.5 weeks from now, and I don't know if I am or not, but I might be caravanning down with them, driving one of their cars, and so I might randomly show up.
Awesome. That'd be
So
fantastic.
yeah, I'm really excited because I've got you there. I've got another one of my good friends there and a couple other friends. So like I forgot how many people I know in that area. So it might be a cool little trip.
Yeah, just let me know. That'd be fantastic.
Yeah.
Um, yeah,
That'll be
that's
our
great.
IMTS.
Yeah, there you go. We'll do a mini meetup and get that
Yeah.
in for sure.
That actually might be kind of cool if we could do something like that.
Yeah, I'm trying to think. I know there's a few Insta machinists around here, but not too many.
Yeah, I'm trying to
But
think.
that'd be cool for sure.
Yeah, so
What else do we have on the list? Oh, so you can now order helical tools online through Tormach.
really.
Yeah, I think they have the full catalog on their website. I'm not sure about the extent of it, but yeah, they put them up and thought that was pretty interesting.
Oh, hold on, let me look. What the heck? Tormach has like a freaking router now?
Oh yeah, yeah. Easton was saying really good things about it too.
Wow, they've
Yeah,
got a lot of tooling on here.
yeah. They got YG1 as well, and
Yeah, I'm looking at that. Wow.
pretty impressive. Impressive. It's frustrating on my end because I tried to get our local, or tried to like push Yamazin tooling division to be a distributor, and Helical was like, "We're not doing any more distributors." And then like, a
Then
month
it's like, what's the
later,
point?
right? Yeah, exactly. It's like just like let anybody sell your tools that has the volume. It doesn't make any sense.
Yeah.
So anyway, it's cool that you can now get them online. I can check out at midnight and not have to worry about talking to a sales rep anymore, which is fantastic.
Fantastic.
Yeah,
Yeah, that's an interesting move, especially for Tormach.
yeah. It seems like they're really. I mean, it seems like a lot of machine tool builders are kind of getting into that. Like Haas is releasing their tool holders, I think, in July 1st or something like that.
Oh, they're making their own?
Well, I don't know if they're making their own, but they are
Yeah.
branding their own.
Huh. Interesting.
Yeah. So yeah, that was kind of cool, and I figured I'd let our listeners know since I've complained enough about not being able to order them online. Though I'm now pretty happy with all of my GW stuff and that I can get online. So we'll see.
I heard a rumor. Now, this is just a rumor, and I can't remember if I saw this on Facebook or what, but supposedly Haas is now in the process of potentially selling direct to customers.
Really?
Yeah. And so like if I want a machine, I call California and I go through that, and it might even get to the point where it's potentially, with their website being the way it is, it's like Tesla where it's add to cart, place the order.
Oh, that's interesting. Yeah, I hadn't heard that, but I could see them doing it. I mean, Selway would lose their minds, but
I still
um,
think Selway, I think it's just like what was it? I think Tom Lipton mentioned it, but it's the parts and the service that really, Selway's really how they make their money.
yeah, yeah. Well, and I would worry that going direct would alienate Selway, so they wouldn't want to do any parts and service, and then there would be that like crossover time where Haas would have to start stocking their own techs and their own vans and their own people everywhere, and it'd
Yeah.
be like DMG Mori over the last couple of years, where like you're waiting, months to get a tech out because they only have a few qualified techs in the U.S.
Yeah. It's a fair argument for sure.
Yeah, we'll just have to see where it all goes. I think something tells me if Haas did that, they would be smart enough that they would be tooling up techs for like
Oh,
months
yeah.
beforehand. They'd hit the ground running pretty hard. So we'll just have to see.
Yeah, but if that happens, I think that's a huge push for everyone to say, "Hey, guys, like come on. If our customer wants an end mill, give him an end mill. He doesn't want to talk to someone that adds no value to the transaction and it makes it cost more money and time for him."
Yeah,
So,
totally. So what else did you have?
I have international shipping sucks.
Yeah, I know we've
So,
kind of encountered that just even with our t-shirts.
yeah, it's not only expensive, but it puts the seller, like myself for instance, in a really weird position. So like so I send things through USPS, and let's say I send a Lego figure to Germany, and I have in my shipping and return policies like, I have the tracking number, but once it leaves the US, I have zero control over it. Like I can't see where it's at. I can't do anything about it, right?
Right.
And so it's basically like it's on the customers, like, do they want to take the risk? 95% of the time, yes, it does get there. It just takes a long time. Instead of 3 to 7 days for in the States, it might take 2 to 3 weeks. Um, but it puts me in a weird position where, okay, someone buys something for me, let's say $60 worth of stuff, and this has happened, and they're in Germany. It's been like a month, and they email me and they're like, hey, where's my package? And I'm like, it says it's left the country. Here's the tracking link. Other than that, I can't tell you anything. So maybe give it another week or two. And then they'll email me back another week later or whatever and say, okay, I still don't have it. I want my money back. And it's like, okay, this is a weird spot that I'm in now because it's like, I told you that I can't control it. And now I don't know if you're lying to me and you actually have my product, or that it just actually is just never going to show up, which does happen sometimes. And then I'm either in the position where I have to refund them $60 and I just lose $60 for nothing, or they feel like they're getting scammed.
Yeah, that's tough. I think it's only gotten worse with shipping the way it is right now. I think it was Peter McKinnon's like second YouTube or Instagram profile. It's like Pete's Pirate Life. Like they were up with Grimsmo last week, but like he just posted something the other day of like the challenge coins they were shipping. I guess have been taking up to 2 months to get to people.
Wow. Yeah.
So yeah, I think it's definitely affecting everyone.
Yeah. It's just, it's just one of those things with being a small business that no one could have told me that from the get go. Like, Um, I don't know. It's just I had a day like a week ago where I was just like making all sorts of mistakes. Like I was losing money here. I screwed that up. Like this, like it felt like every customer in the world was emailing me about a problem, and I'm like, what is going on? Like, and at the end of the day, it's just like just take it one step at a time. And honestly, at the end of the day, you can't make everybody happy. Just try your best. Um, and it's just a weird position sometimes you're in.
Yeah, totally. And like your products aren't expensive enough that you can afford to like do UPS or FedEx or DHL or anything like that, because it would double or triple your shipping rates too.
Yeah, and they're already expensive as is, which I hate doing, and I can't control that though.
Yeah, yeah, exactly.
But yeah, it's an interesting one, and I'm sure a lot of people that are out there that have Shopify sites or whatnot would share that sympathy with myself.
Oh yeah, yeah. So
And
tell me
then
about small wastes.
yes, find them. All caps. Um, so I am trying to do more. I'm not lazy, I promise. But I'm trying to do more in the same amount of time in a day. And so, for example, I took a blank piece of paper this morning. Well, last night I emailed myself. I was sitting in bed and I emailed myself. I said, find small wastes. So then this morning I see that email. I'm like, okay. I get out a blank piece of paper and I just start writing down things where I'm wasting time or it's a dumb task that I'm constantly doing. And I have a pretty good list and I'm slowly knocking through them. Some of the products I sell are packs of other products I sell. So, different SKUs, all in one product number, and they're not packaged already. Okay. So whenever I get an order, I have to pull up my phone, I have to go to the product on my app, and I have to say, okay, you know, I don't remember which guns are in this weapon pack that I sell. And then just recently, I was like, all right, that was dumb. Let's print off a little picture and keep it in my inventory room. So I don't have to pull up my phone anymore, but I still have to stop, sit there and count out these weapons and bag them up. And then I can check it off the order. And I'm like, that's just dumb. So it's pre-packaging everything, making sure like everything is like just grab and go. And that's kind of where I'm starting, but there's other things like in ShipStation, you know, why am I clicking this check mark every time? There's got to be a way in settings that, that never pops up, or it's just all those little things.
Yeah, totally. I'm right there with you. I'm starting to try to nail some of those down as well. Andrew Henry posted, and I bought some of these little magnetic. They're like little tool caddies, and I have one on each machine now that has my Allen wrenches and my Carve Smart wrench and my vice handle. I still need to Kaizen foam them, but like it's already just that little bit faster. Like I don't have to turn towards the tool cart that I have there and open the drawer and grab any of that stuff. It's all right there on the machine. I can just go for it.
Yep.
Um, and I posted yesterday, and I'm still going to kind of modify these programs, but like there's no way to home the brother manually back to where the operator load station is. Like the home on I think all BT30 machines I've ever been on is away from the operator and like into the corner behind the door.
Yep.
And so I just made two programs that home X and Y independently, and I'm going to make one more that homes X and Y together. So rather than hand wheeling or jogging the machine, now I just type in the number for the other program and hit start, and it comes back to me. It's like I should have done this, 6 months ago. Like, why am I still like? I was thinking last night. I was like, why am I still hand wheeling? This is so dumb. And
Yeah.
so it was a big improvement already.
Yeah.
Um,
Would you rather let the motors work for you or you sit there and twiddle that little thing?
right, exactly. It was so dumb, and I'm so glad that I'm not dealing with that anymore. And I'm definitely going to start playing with. A lot of people commented about using NC programs. I think they thought that my post didn't put it out, but like my post homes it where I want it. But like I do want to start playing with the NC programs thing and having a master file and all that stuff that I've talked about for a while. But it's something I can do at home, so I might as well start playing on the weekends with it.
Yeah, that's true.
And then I was watching one of the Fusion lives, and I realized like that there's a lot you can do with those master programs too, because the drill operation now you can have it drill by diameter.
Yep.
So you can and you can have dirty operations when you post. So I could just have like a bunch of drills in a op one template, and just when I hit regen, it'll only regen the ones that the drills exist for, and then I can just look at all the dirty ones and either delete them or just ignore them, and then post the program.
Yeah.
So there's a lot. I still need to figure out my workflow there, but there's a lot that I want to do there. Um, yeah. Anyway, I'm right there with you. Small waste, find them, eliminate them, make yourself feel better.
Oh yeah, I just realized that we haven't talked about this. I got a new 3D printer.
Oh yeah, yeah. We talked about a bunch about it offline, but
Yeah. So
so
I still haven't had time to get it working.
oh man, you're
But
killing me.
I'm looking at it right now. It's a really cool little machine. I think it's pretty cool. I know it's the same one you have, and I I was in a bind with some parts that I needed to make, and then I really needed another printer to prototype a product that I'm working on. And I was like, I texted Dylan, I'm like, you have the Ender 3, right? He's like, yeah, the Pro. I'm like, okay. And I just Googled it and I found them for like $240 shipped. And I was like, add to cart, buy. And I like within a week it was here. And I'm like, that is so cheap for how much this printer can do and how big the bed is. Like it's ridiculous.
Yeah, for it, like you really can't beat it for the price. Eric from the Late Night podcast was just messaging me today because he wants to buy one too, and he was looking at it, and I think it's all 3DP is the website, and they're like a big 3D printing website, and like all of their top 10 or whatever top printers of the year for last year, every single one of them in every category was either an Ender 3 or an Ender 5.
No way.
Yep. Yeah. And they've got one right now. Like I don't need another printer, so I'm not going to invest in it. But like they have a Kickstarter right now for the CR6 SE, and that thing is like killer because right now you can get it on Kickstarter for like I think 320 or something like that, and it's got auto leveling and dual Z screws and a better heated bed and a better what's it called, hot end, and filament runout detection and like just all of this crazy stuff.
Wow.
So yeah, they're poised to really just kill the FDM market with that thing. At least it looks like it. You know, all the people who have gotten pre-release versions of it really liked it. So, but
Yeah,
yeah, you
I
got to
need
get that
to.
thing running. Like I still haven't finished my machined uh, bed leveling system for it, but at this point, I'm going to finish it before you get that thing running.
Well, that's what I wanted to ask you because you had talked about that last week, and I honestly was kind of lost at what you were talking about. So, what you said you were, I saw the spacers you made,
Hmm.
and then you had mentioned something else. But talk about what were those spacers for again?
So the spacers, you know how there's the springs underneath the bed, and then
Yeah.
there's the little hand wheels that lock it down onto that.
Uh huh.
So the spacers replaced the springs, so it was hard mounted to that carriage.
Okay.
The problem is that the carriage is just like stamped steel and is super far out. So it was so far out that my BL Touch couldn't account or wasn't accounting for that amount of slope. And so like my nozzle was digging in at one point and barely touching at the other. So now I have completely remachined the carriage, or the whatever you want to call it, the bed carriage, and then I have um, these little not conical but spherical screws that go up through it and mount to the bottom of the heated bed. And so the whole thing is going to be hard mounted still with hard screws that I'll be able to adjust finely and set and just forget. And then like my BL Touch will take care of the rest. Like I won't have to really worry about like getting it super close. I'll just need to be roughly level, and then the BL Touch will take care of the rest.
You'll have to send me some pictures just to visualize that. But that sounds like a really nice upgrade.
Yeah, yeah, I've got some modifications to do. The screws I made are not as long as I think I need, but we'll see. But like I said, I think 2 weeks ago, if it goes well and I like it and it increases printer throughput or whatever, you know, makes it work how I think it'll work, I might make it as a product because it, you know, it'll be kind of cool. I don't know. I'm excited for it, and maybe I'll sell it with a BL Touch as like a full kit because really installing the BL Touch is super easy. I installed it on that SKR board, but from what I've seen, installing it on the standard Ender board just requires an adapter little board too.
Okay. Yeah. See, I don't know. It's a really cool machine, and I was shocked at how fast it heats up to the bed and the nozzle.
Oh yeah, yeah, that's quick.
But I don't know what is going on with mine. I need to fiddle with it more.
next time you want to play with it, just give me like a video call and I can kind of walk you through it. It's hard to do it over text, but like if I could see what's going on and help you diagnose it, I think we can get it working, no problem.
Yeah, I think it's definitely a leveling issue, and then I don't know if I'm using that PETG and talking to Drew from Drew Fab, he was like, "That material is great for everything, but it's hard to get sticking."
Yeah,
Um,
yeah. I use tape and Elmer's glue for everything, and that seems to work. I use
okay,
that powder coat tape that Saunders uses for his super glue and tape method,
okay.
because that stuff's PET, which is like what they make a lot of 3D printer beds out of for enhanced stickiness.
And you're putting that on top of that magnetic plate?
I've got the glass plate on mine,
Okay,
um, but yeah, on the when I had the magnetic plate with PLA at least, I didn't have any issues sticking. I don't think I ever tried to print PETG with the magnetic plate.
okay. Yeah, if you've got and then that's another thing, I downloaded the latest form of what is it, Cura?
Hmm.
And that I must have had a really old one because it's way different.
Yeah,
um,
yeah. I think like between 3 and 4, I think it was, or something like that. It changed quite a bit.
yeah, so I'm playing around. Some people reached out. I did a live stream, and some people reached out with some speeds and feeds and temps, and so I need to. I tried most of them, but I just think it's a leveling issue right now.
Yeah, it looked like it from what you sent, but yeah, like I said, next time you want to play with it, just let me know and we can go over it.
Okay, sounds good.
All right, so on to our new segment. What did you research this week?
Oh boy, you want me to go first this time?
Yeah.
So I don't know what prompted this, but I was really bored one night and I was like, I want to look up how did the Mars rover get onto Mars? Like, I just never understood that. And it is really interesting. And like, I don't know if this is true, but with the one video I watched, like, when it went into Mars's atmosphere, it had like these giant inflatable like balls around it and it just like bounced on the surface until it stopped.
Yeah, I think that's accurate. I want to say it is.
And I was like, what a like a what's the right word? A simple way of doing it, right? Like don't overcomplicate it, right? Um and I was like, that's really interesting. And then I was looking into like all the pictures that that thing has taken, and like I was just like, wow, that's like crazy to think. And then what was it? It was another video on how Elon plans to like colonize Mars and like all the different things that they have to set up on Mars if it is to be feasible. And it was just really interesting because it's like it's totally doable, but it's just like it's not an easy task.
No, not at all. It's funny that you bring this up because I was just talking with a coworker about this today.
Really?
Well, because I had sent him. I mean, to go along with this theme, if did you see the Dragon capsule launch and then the Starlink satellites like a week later?
Yeah.
So like I had sent him both of those videos, and then we were talking about how he wants to colonize Mars, and like the big problem is, if anything goes wrong, you're like 200 days at best away from Earth.
Yeah.
It's like things have to go almost perfectly, or you have to have a way to fix everything. So yeah, it's pretty crazy. But
Yeah.
those launches, man, like nothing gets me more excited than like watching those rocket boosters land on the drone ships or anything. That's like it's just the coolest thing
And
ever.
it just happens so effortlessly. Like it's used to it. Like it just does it.
Yeah, yeah, that's what people in the comments, I think on the Starlink landing, they were like, people are just assuming that we're gonna land rockets now. Like this is just commonplace now. Like that's 2 years ago that was not a for sure thing, and now they've got. I mean, the booster that sent up the most recent delivery of Starlink satellites, that was its fifth mission,
Yeah.
which is insane.
Yeah, that is a lot of machining parts saved.
Yeah, seriously. I mean, they used to just toss those things like they were scrap, and now they're reusing. Like the one that went up still had scorch marks from the last time it entered the atmosphere. Like it's just so freaking cool.
Yeah, that's we're definitely in this crazy era, and it's one of those things everyone's like, can you imagine like if we're here now in 5 years what it will be, and then in 10 years what it will be at.
Right. Yeah, exactly. Yeah, it's
So,
absolutely just it's so cool. I absolutely love it.
Yeah. I love people that push the envelope like that.
Yeah. So the things that I had researched, this one actually I didn't research, but I've used it now twice. Was Brandon B Sudiswa, or I guess he's Machine Shop Outlaw now on Instagram. He posted up this thing called Opti Cutter, and you can give it the size of blanks that you need, how long your bars are, and the kerf of your saw, and it'll tell you exactly how many bars you need and give you a cut list for every bar so that you get exactly what you need and tell you exactly how much waste you have to your kerf and how much waste or like leftovers you have.
No
Um,
way.
yeah, and it's just called, I think it's just opticutter.com. Let me double check right now. But I used it last night, and it's like, yeah, so it's 1D cutter optimization,
What the heck?
and it's totally free. There is pricing, I think, if you want like maybe some other. Oh, you can do like up to 10,000 parts if you know have the basic version or whatever, and 100 different part lengths instead of 20 different part lengths. But like for the most part, the free will cover you for almost any project as long as it's not giant, and it works great. Like it's really really cool.
Yeah, that's something I'm always doing is I'm saying, okay, 144 inches divided by this, okay, minus eighth inch per part, blah, 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 blah.
Yeah, same, totally. And like last night, I had to do it for some copper, and I was like, oh, okay, I need 5 sticks. Like it took what usually, I mean, it maybe saved me a minute total, but like a minute when I'm trying to get out a quick quote, that's still some time back in my pocket. So
Yeah.
I figured I'd bring it up here. I think he hopefully has saved it in his stories too, if you forget it. But yeah, it's pretty neat. So opticutter.com. And then the other thing that came up, I was at dinner with my girlfriend's parents, and they had like given her some paper, like for watercoloring,
Okay.
and I looked up paper weight, so like how paper is weighed, and it's usually like when it says like 80-pound paper, it's because it's the weight of a ream of 500 sheets, I think it is, or it's the weight of a ream.
And a
Is that
ream is a measurement of paper.
a ream is usually 500 sheets of that paper.
Okay.
Yeah. And so like it's, you take whatever that poundage divided by 500 sheets and you get the weight per paper. But that's how you get that, even like printer paper has a weight on it. I think it's usually like 80-pound or 60-pound or something like that.
Huh.
Yeah. So I thought that was interesting little tidbit and figured I'd share it.
Yeah, that is interesting.
Yeah.
Okay, so podcast part 2
Yeah.
starts now.
Yeah. All right. All of the questions. Thank you all for chiming in. The last
Jeez.
couple episodes have been fantastic because you guys just like you have tons of them. Like it's awesome. So hold on, I've got actually one more to add right now.
Oh my god.
So hopefully no more come in
That's
as
freaking
we are.
hilarious.
Well, the first one's for you. So why don't you start taking that one and I'll finish this.
So Smith Machine and Tool says DM2 or VF2 SS. If you had the space, would you have considered the VF over the DM and why? Thanks. All right. If I had the space and the power, probably go with the VF2 just because I think it actually is cheaper.
Is it really?
I think so.
That's insane.
I think just since that's just their bread and butter, that's. So I'd say yes, and that's another conversation. And everybody always has this conversation is power and air requirements. Power for a VF2 is supposedly like 80 amps, and mine is 13 amps or something, 17 amps. And so, but I know people that run like many VF2s off like a 50 amp breaker and like no problem. So,
Yeah, well, you have like the same spindle and the same axis drive, I think,
exactly.
as a VF2. Like they just shrunk a VF2 and made a DM2. Like I don't. That's
It's
no.
literally just a different enclosure and a different tool changer.
Yeah. That's dumb that the rating's so different.
They
Oh,
would sell a
actually,
lot more if they made that rating accurate.
so one thing, the Haas thing, real quick. That I want to say, who was it? Craig, somebody. Somebody posted, I guess, that the purple grease is discontinued now.
I heard that.
And so the Protodyne manufacturing had commented that the red was discontinued due to it plugging up the metering valves, and that purple was a combination of red grease and whey oil, which I've never looked into it. I don't know if this is true or not, but like that kind of makes me worried about the purple. Then, if the purples might be clogging people's metering valves as well, so we'll have to see what's next.
All I know is there was I don't know if you knew this, but there was a clear canister of like a plastic one of this Haas grease, and then they switched to metal because the plastic ones would explode.
Yeah, yeah, I've seen a bunch of pictures of that.
And
It's
I was
so
just like,
terrible.
geez, like, what the heck? Like, thank goodness I had the metal one.
Yeah, it straight up looks like somebody murdered a VF2. Like,
Yeah.
all right. Next question was from David Ron, who, just to reiterate from your last question last week, David, you are a machinist. Fixture makers are machinists.
Yes.
Um, so he asks helix bore or contour ramp for circular bores. He prefers contour ramp because he likes controlling the angle. It's more intuitive than the pitch value. So I do both. I do helix bore for circular bores. I do contour ramp for contours like slots. And then helix bore I never use to finish a bore really, unless it's for a personal fixture and I don't care about the hole size. But I usually helix bore first and then go back in with a pre-drill location and then just a contour and finish the hole.
Yeah, I normally do. Yeah, I'm pretty much the same way. Helix bore. I have on one part that got sandblasted and anodized that I didn't care about the whole finish. I just went straight to finish size with a bore, just super fast because it didn't matter. But other than that, yeah, bore it then contour to finish.
Well, I'm opening Fusion right now because I want to say that they added angle on helix bore now in like one of the last updates. So I'm trying to pull up Fusion real quick and make sure that I'm not wrong there. But I'll jump back to that as soon as Fusion opens. But I'm pretty sure that angle and pitch is in both of them now. But I can't be sure. Anyway, so on to the next one. Adam the Machinist asked, "What do you guys do with extra parts at the end of a run? Say if my client had made me make 30 parts and it has 3 ops, then heat, and then 2 post heat treat ops. I'll run off a few extras in case I mess one up. When the project's over, do you hang on to them for the repeat and see if the client wants them? Some of my customers might take them, but others are building custom machines and don't really need the extra bracket. Is this how display cases and lobbies get filled?"
Exactly.
So my extra parts fall into 2 categories. One is extra parts that are in spec and ones that are setup parts. And setup parts get thrown into my display cabinet if I think they're cool, and otherwise I just recycle them. But if they are in spec parts and I've made like a few of them, I will go ahead and keep them on hand. Like I've got a drawer in one of my toolboxes that's full of customer parts that are bagged and tagged and labeled and ready to go because I know the customer and I know that they probably will order them again or that they might need an extra one here or there. But for the most part, like if it's a onesie twosie and I've got one extra, like it's so rare that they come back for another one that, like I said, if it's cool, I'll keep it and throw it in the cool part bin. And if not, I just recycle it and move on to the next thing. What about you?
Yeah. Luckily, most of my customers have been pretty lenient. I'm always making extras just for setup parts and just in case something goes wrong, especially when I'm doing these, 6-op parts. There's so much room for, something to go wrong when you're setting it up. But luckily, most of my customers, if I'm making 100 parts and I have 5 extras or even 10 extras, they'll be like, yeah, we'll take them. So I just sell them. Sometimes they'll be like, hey, could you discount the extras a little bit? I'm like, sure, $5 off or whatever. And they take them.
That's awesome. Yeah, I probably need to do a better job of like reaching out to my customers and saying like, "Hey, I've got a couple extras. Do you want them?" And I've got like one customer that like they'll have me quote out 100 of these electronics enclosures, and then I'll get 80 or something. But then like of the machine parts that are part of that assembly, like I'll make a few extra and they'll buy those too. So like their quotes and their actual invoices rarely match up.
Oh, yeah. Yep.
To go back real quick to David's question, I finally got Fusion up, and there is a use ramp angle checkbox in bore now. So um, you can do either ramp angle or pitch in either.
That's good to know.
Yep. So on to the next one. Boone Freeman asked best company or person for coming up with new logo for businesses. And second question, is Shopify a good option for starting an online store or use somebody else? So the second part of that, I'm going to defer to you because I've never used Shopify at all.
I think for the first one, as far as like logos and stuff, I mean, there's all those websites like Upwork, Fiverr. Um, None of my designers I've like found through like a big company, like a design company. It's all been either friends of a friends that, are graphic designers, or found someone on Upwork and we work really well together, and, you just take your work off of Upwork and go through like email or text is probably the best. So you're not get charged fees and stuff. But yeah, I would say that for the first part.
Yeah, I mean, I use Fiverr. I haven't used Upwork yet, but I've used Fiverr a whole bunch. Like my company logo, I came up with, and then had somebody like make into a graphic design on Fiverr. Same with my business cards. The Within Tolerance logo is made on Fiverr as well.
Yeah.
So yeah, Fiverr or Upwork, any of those are pretty great. I think they're better if you have an idea of what you already want. I've
Yeah.
never I don't know. There's a bunch of people on Fiverr though that offer like you give me your business and what you do, and I'll come up with a few options. So those might be good. I've always gone into it with like, this is what I want. Here's a rough hand sketch. Make it look pretty.
Well, yeah, that's kind of what me and you did with the podcast logo. We're like, okay, we want something like this. We want this simple symbol. Basically, we just need a PDF or a PNG of it.
Yeah, yeah. Like we went into it knowing that I wanted the plus or minus symbol in there to link the two words, and then they gave us like a kind of weird WT to the left of the thing. We were like, it looks kind of weird. And then we talked about it. And we were like, well, what about a true position sign? And then we went back to them with that, and they took care of it, and they came out looking really cool. So the best thing is to make sure that like whoever, if you're going to go through Fiverr, at least make sure that they offer revisions, and then Upwork, find somebody that's willing to work with you.
Yeah. And then about Shopify, I think it's the best option. There's other places out there, but I'm telling you about simplicity and having an app on your phone that you can check everything and just I think it's I mean, let's put it this way. Shopify stock is way up right now, and that's for a reason. And I just think it's the next thing for sure.
Yeah, yeah, I'll let you know because I've got Squarespace, and when I come up with like my next little idea that I want to sell, I'm going to be setting up a Squarespace store through my website, and so we can kind of compare and contrast notes once I do that.
And you're going to have this product done in the next month when you get rid of your kitty and have your orange subplate on, right?
Yeah, and I'm not going to sleep at all, and I'm going to quit my job tomorrow. Yep.
Perfect.
All right, next one is from Built by Hutch, and he said, do you guys have any mental tips or tricks for staying positive and motivated? Anything that helps you get past failures, frustrations, and onto working again?
That's a good question.
Yeah, I feel like to me they're not linked at all. Like for me, I can get over failures and frustrations fairly easily. Like usually it just involves taking a break or going home for the night and just working on it tomorrow. The biggest thing lately for me has been like staying positive and motivated. Like I don't know what it is about the last month and a half or 2 months, but I have just been like just tired and not motivated,
Yep.
and like I don't know what it is. I don't know if it's the summer because it's getting hot. I don't know if it's just because I'm busy and there's like nothing to do. I don't know. But like, that has been a struggle, and so I've gotten back into working out. Like my gym's still closed, so I've had to start running on the river path that we have here. I've been doing more like hit workouts and stuff like that off of YouTube. Just trying to find ways to stay physically active so that it like gives my mind a break and gives me a little more energy, all that stuff. But as far as like getting past failures and frustrations, like I don't know if it's just because I've made so many mistakes and had so many past failures that like at this point it's like, well, this is just one of the things my business partner Brad always says, like, well, at the end of the day, you're going to go home and sleep in your bed. So like, how bad can it actually be? Um, and like that's gotten me through a lot of really rough things. It's like, well, yeah, I might be here till 2 or 3 a.m., but in an hour I'm going to go home and I'm going to sleep, and it'll be the next day. So, but how bad can it be?
Yeah, and I think, you know, it's hard to it's what we've talked about this before with, it's really frustrating when something's going wrong and you just don't know why and it's consistent. Um, that's what's really frustrating. But if it's something like, oh, I broke this end mill or this or this, like, you can't do anything about that. You can't go back. Like, too late. Like, okay, there goes a $60 end mill. Yeah, that sucks. Move forward. Like, come on. Like, you can't dwell on that and think about that. Like, yeah, it sucks. Like, maybe think about how can you prevent that from happening in the future. But other than that, like, okay, like, move on. I guess, you just gotta get over it. But there's, like you said, those times where it's the motivation and, just being positive, like, okay, I'm gonna go into this shop and I'm gonna work for, 12 or 16 hours straight, being dirty and cooling and with a short cycle time. And, you're not getting maybe paid as much for these parts as you wish you were, or whatever. um, that can be a little bit harder to control.
Yeah, that's the real mental struggle of being an entrepreneur. I think is like, and like I hope that we don't come off as like being positive and motivated all the time, because I know personally I am definitely not. Like
Yeah.
I get positivity and motivation from this podcast. Like I love hearing from our listeners. I like talking to you so much. Um, so that always helps. Like I always, even the nights that I have to go into the shop, like tonight, I'm going into the shop after this, and I know I'm going to be super tired later on, but like I will be motivated because we talked about machining, and like getting to talk to a like-minded person and talk about what I love so much is always
And you're not
super motivating.
alone.
Yeah, yeah, exactly. So like maybe find find a resource, like yes, you can talk to your significant other, you can talk to a friend who's not in the industry, and like it helps, but like finding somebody who is just as passionate about machining or 3D printing. I think Built by Hutch does a lot of 3D printed things for, I think, Miata's, if I remember right. So just finding somebody who like, even if you're just texting him or something like that, just find somebody that you can bounce ideas off, or commiserate with, and that really helps.
I'm telling you, if you're standing in front of your machine right now and you're listening to this and you're bored, not with this podcast, because obviously we're awesome, but like, if you're bored, I guarantee you can message anybody. Go on your Instagram DMs right now. I know you're on your phone with your right hand over the feed hold button and with your AirPods in. I know who you are, but go to your Instagram DMs right now, scroll through whoever's active right now, just message them and be like, hey, how's it going? And I guarantee you some of those people are doing the exact same thing right now. They're either struggling with a setup or they're running parts and they're bored and they have no one to talk to and they're tired of listening to Joe Rogan and, music or whatever. I've been there. I've done that. I've talked to, Drew and I have been texting all the time recently, and, he's been running parts and, I'm giving him crap for not having a tool changer, and he's making a mess of coolant on the ground, and we're just both, having fun and texting and making parts. So like, there's always going to be someone out there in that position that you can talk to, and they'd love to talk to you.
Yeah, yeah, it's totally true. Like I've video call even like Andrew, or um, a few other people, Andy Clark, bunch of times we've talked about fusion and stuff, and like yeah, everybody's just, I don't know, like the instant machinist community. I say it all the time, but it's so awesome. Like everybody is so cool in it that yeah, for the most part, any time of the night I can message somebody and get a response back, or start a conversation about machining. And like everybody's around the world too. So like as I'm going to bed, Jody from Machinist Therapy Hotline is like just getting up. Like there's always somebody on Instagram doing something.
Oh yeah.
All right. So next one was Fort Manufacturing. He said, "What hours, days do you work when you don't have a project? How do you spend your shop time? And have you applied lean manufacturing, and has it helped? Best frozen burrito, and is the plural of Sasquatch Sasquishes Sasquish?"
Sasquish.
All right. So I'll roll through them real quick, and then you can do the same. Hours, days. I work 4 days a week at my day job, 6:30 to 5, and then I work pretty much every other day at my shop. I try to take, if I don't have, not if I don't have the work, I always have enough work to keep me busy. But if I have enough that I can take a day off, I try to take Friday or Saturday off, and then work every other day at least 5 or 6 hours. Um, then when I don't have a project, which I have not had in a very very long time, but I usually make a project. If I don't have a project, I make a project. Like my 3D printer thing, I was slow for like 2 days, and I was like, it's a good idea. Start machining something, and then that's like doing the rain dance, and like work came down from the sky, and now I'm busy again. Um, as far as applying lean manufacturing, I'm constantly trying to improve. Fix what bugs you. I think is the biggest thing, and it's like the easiest way into lean. And like that, I'm constantly doing little things like that, like the magnetic things for my tools that I said earlier. That's been a big help. Uh, don't eat frozen burritos because I live in Arizona and we've got the best Mexican food. And Sasquatches, plural, maybe. I don't
I agree with that last part.
know.
Um, what hours do I work? Whenever I'm not sleeping, but I'm seriously trying to cut back, and it sounds so dumb, but if you're not an entrepreneur, you will never understand the brain of one, because like if I'm not working, this sounds so dumb, but if I'm literally like watching a YouTube video just for 10 minutes, I'm like in my head, I'm like, why aren't you working? Like you could be doing 10 minutes of work. Like, why aren't you working? You're not being productive right now. And like to turn that switch off, you have to get through like a bulletproof like building that's like underground. Like it's impossible. But like I'm slowly picking the locks to get there. And I'm trying to take Sundays. Like this past Sunday, I did not touch my computer. I did not open Fusion. I did not check my email. I like relaxed. I went out and did some fun stuff with friends, and like just completely didn't even worry about it, which was awesome. And so trying my best there. Let's see. There's always a project. That's just that's just how it's gonna be. Um, if you
Yeah,
don't
are
see
there
me
people
doing
out
a
there without projects? Like,
yeah, if you don't see me doing a project, something's wrong. Um, have you applied lean manufacturing, and has it helped? Yes, I have. It does help. Like we've talked about, it's the small things that add up over time. Best frozen burrito. Uh, I just make my own. I've never had a frozen one, to be honest with you. And yeah, I like the idea of Sass Squish, but I just don't think that's right.
yeah, and actually, as far as sleep goes, like I recently bought into the hype and got that Whoop strap that Joe Rogan and Tom Segura and all them advertise all the time, and so I've been tracking my sleep a whole bunch,
Oh,
and like
really?
that has been very eye opening. Because it tracks a few things to say like how ready you are for strain the next day or like working out or whatever, and like it's cool seeing all the data. Like I know the days that I get, like there are days that I get less than optimal amount of sleep, but that's still really good quality, and like it shows, and so it's really nice to kind of have that backup, and like I can go back and be like, oh well, what was I doing that day, and like look at my data and be like, oh well, yeah, maybe don't do that again, or maybe I need to go to bed by this time, or don't eat this late at night or something like that.
It sounds dumb, but it's like those videos where we see like, oh, I could see what the coolant concentrate of this specific day and time was. It's like, okay, we can see if Dylan was really sleep deprived and he scrapped a bunch or not.
Right, exactly, yeah. So it's been really neat seeing that, and it's, yeah, I don't know, I'm such a like a engineer mindset anyway, that like I'm all about the data, and so like now having data on my like personal well-being is kind of cool to see.
Yeah, there's a really good Joe Rogan on this sleep expert guy that's really eye opening that I think everyone should watch.
Yeah, I watched that one and it made me super depressed.
Yep.
I was like, I am hurting my body so badly.
Yep.
But it's cool because like the sleep coach on this thing like tells you, it's like, hey, you should probably go to bed now. And like it's now it's got enough data that it knows my schedule is messed up, and so like it doesn't even tell me to get 100% of the sleep I need. It's like, hey, why don't you go to bed now and wake up at this time, and you'll get like 85%. Like, How's that?
Yeah, yeah.
And I'm like, oh god, yeah, all right.
All right, fine.
Yeah. Um, all right. Next question was from 75 Hard Machinist Gyro. He said, "Is manufacturing coming back to the U.S.?"
I hope so. I think so.
Yeah. I haven't seen any like direct, you know, orders that are like, "Hey, we're reshoring this," or like, "Hey, we're having you bid against China." But like, I think everybody's seen how fragile our supply chain is now, and I think that over the next few years, it will definitely bring back more and more work.
Actually, I've had that exact thing happen. I've had people reach out to me and say, "Hey, I've had this machined in China. I'll give you the pricing. Can you come anywhere close?" And it is crazy how cheap stuff is. Like, I'm looking at this part that's like the size of an iPhone, maybe 3 inches tall, completely hollowed out, and it's like a 4-aught part for like $9. And
Yeah.
I'm like, "What?" And I'm like, I tell these customers, I'm like, "That's great that you wanna come back in the States, like, I'm all for that, especially, local being in Washington, but, I'm not China, like, I don't pay myself nothing." Um,
Yeah. You're not
and
government subsidized.
yeah, and it's like, I can try my best to compete, and luckily, a lot of these guys, the volume's there where it's like, okay, I'm not making as much, but since it's, 200 parts, like, it ends up working out, and I'm not at $9, but I might be at 15, and that $6 might be a big deal, but a lot of the times they're like, "Okay, like, it's worth it because I can actually talk to you. I actually, like, can come check you out," and, like, all those things, so it's really interesting that I've had, like, 3 people come to me for that exact reason.
Oh, that's awesome. That's really good to hear.
So, yeah.
All right. Next one from Metal Trade Solutions. How do you decide when to spend time improving the shop or the business process? During jobs, between jobs, weekends?
For me, it's been when I'm not motivated, like, honestly, today, and I was like, "You know what? Like, I need to sit down and how can I improve the quality of life when I'm doing stuff?" You know, like packing orders or all those little things, So really whenever you can, but I honestly don't think it's a bad idea to say, "Okay, every 1st of the month, I wanna spend the whole day cleaning, improving something, improving a process." I think that would totally be a good idea for most people.
Yeah. Yeah. I think it was Saunders who was talking about like putting things on your to-do list, and like if it's easy, you just should do it. And like that's kind of how I come across improvements is like if it's something I can take care of in a half an hour or like 20 minutes, I'm going to do it. I'm not going to wait on it. And if I don't need to buy anything or I don't need to go anywhere, I'm just going to do it because I know it's not going to get done or it's going to get put on a to-do list that's going to sit for a month. So if it's something you can do quickly and like if you're not 20 minutes from your ship window being closed, just do it. Like just get it done and then you'll be happier in the long run. If it's, something that requires some spending, yeah, I kind of I mean, clearly as we've talked about my projects, like they just have been sitting by the wayside because I've been so busy and like I hate that. So I'm not the best person to talk to about that, and like I need to do better about that because right now I'm saying, oh, between jobs, and like there's no between jobs. It's like solid jobs forever. It seems like so. I need maybe the first of a month is a good idea, or twice a month or something like that. Set aside some time, and like occasionally we do that. Like we did the material shelf 2 or 3 weeks ago, and we just finished it up the Sunday or Saturday. We finally put everything back on it, and so we've got the floor clean. So yeah, it's just right now it's whenever I can find the time.
Yeah, just do it.
Yep.
All right, let's see, next one, Brookville CNC Products. How would you guys handle letting a customer go in a quote professional manner, not just quoting high on the project?
Mm,
I guess if you're
ah,
trying to get rid of the whole customer, that's a different story. But if it's like one part, I would just quoting high is obviously, you know, that can be weird because it can kind of stand out if all of a sudden you're normally at this kind of hourly rate for a part and all of a sudden you're just giant spike. It's kind of like obvious that you're saying you don't want it. Um, but like I would just straight up tell them, be like, this just isn't a right fit for us right now, and hopefully I can help you on the next one.
Yeah, and if you're trying to get rid of a customer totally, like you just don't want to deal with them anymore, it's a lot better if you can give them a recommendation of somewhere to go. Like, you guys aren't a good fit for me. Your work's not a good fit for my shop, or your work's not a good fit for my machinery. But this shop I've heard of, or this shop I've dealt with, specializes in what you want, or like they might be a better fit for you. And that
Exactly.
way, it's not like go away, I don't want you. It's like, let me help you find the person who will deal with you the best.
Exactly.
The next one was from Machine Runaway, and his first question was also a duplicate of NYDLS 30, and they both wanted updates on the tool lots holders, which,
There is none.
okay. Um,
I do want to design a part, and this might be, I don't, honestly, I can't think of what else to test, but it would be, let's see, probably a 3/16 tool and like just an aluminum part. I don't know. I could just profile something, bore something out, pocket something, and just do that. The only reason I say 3/16 is because I got a $3 ER32 3/16 collet that I've already used that works, but I could use that in the ER32 holder and in the ER16 holder.
oh, yeah, there you go.
So I don't know. I'll do that. I'll check run out, and that's about all I can test really.
Are you still going to send them out for balancing or for balance checking?
I think that would be a cool experiment. If anyone knows or if anyone has a balancer at their shop that'd be willing to do that, that'd be pretty cool.
Yeah, definitely. I'd be interested to see for sure.
Yeah.
And then Machine Runaway's second question was drip feeding. How much do you trust it? Would you let a machine run unattended? Um, I think it's one of those things where, like, theoretically, yeah, I should be able to let the machine run unattended, and I should trust it. But like, I don't know. Maybe it's just like the human in me that's like, I don't trust it reading off of a USB or whatever. I've done it in the past in past shops. Like, I've left the room or I've gone to lunch or whatever. I don't know that I'd let it run overnight. That would be a little scary. Um, but like, that's the whole reason we bought the CalMotion box for our brother, or our older brother, was so that we could DNC larger programs if we needed to.
Yeah. I've done it both ways and I've had problems both ways. So,
Yeah, yeah. I think it's tough trusting a process like that because it is actively reading data. Like, maybe if it was a new control, I wouldn't feel bad about it at all. But like, especially in my case where I'm using a third party adapter to RS232, using just an off the shelf USB, it makes me a little nervous. Like, I'll definitely still do it, and I have done it, but it just, I don't know, makes me unnerved a little bit.
yeah.
So Cat's Meow 13 asked, any good resources to expedite learning how to program? I'm new to machining, been working in aerospace button pushing for over a year, and I'm also taking classes for programming in my local community college. I'm curious to hear how you guys cut your teeth, and if you have any resources that could help me learn more while my school is in recess due to COVID. My ultimate goal is to learn to program and run 5-axis. Thanks, I've learned a lot from listening to the podcast.
First of all, that's pretty cool that he's learned stuff through us.
Yeah, that's awesome. Thanks for listening.
Um, trying to think. If you It's hard if you don't have access to a machine because no one, in my opinion, you can't learn how to program if you can't go out and run the program.
Yeah, yeah, that's a little tough. I know a lot of people like the Titan Academy thing, but I think, yeah, if you're not part of like one of their small groups or whatever, or you don't have access to a machine to make those parts, you know, learning the computer side is great, but without like physically feeling and seeing chips being made and knowing what those feeds and speeds actually do, and hearing chatter and being able to, reduce spindle speed to overcome it, like those are the things that make a good CNC machinist, not being able to program super fast. So definitely, watch all the videos you possibly can. If you're working at your day job still, and like that's not closed due to COVID, if you finish your work early or you've got some time, go bug one of the programmers or go bug a setup guy and learn. Like I was really lucky in that when I was going to school, like you were for programming, I also worked in a shop that was a prototype shop. So I was able to bug the programmers. I was able to start playing around on the weekends, uh, programming and learning setups and all that stuff. So you kind of just have to find find somebody to take you under their wing. Um,
Yeah, I
so
mean, in this current situation, it's obviously hard, but get good at the computer side of things while you have the time and you can. And then once things start to open up and if you get the chance to, go into school and have access to a machine, then you can really start to say, okay, I know how to use Fusion or whatever really well, but now let's really make that connection between, you know, the computer side of things in the real world. Let's really make that connection a really good bond. And yeah, I mean, I think we've all been in this scenario where you can simulate a part all day long, but then you run it and it's like, whoa, like, whoa.
yeah, like oh man, that was a garbage program, or like
Yeah.
oh that took way longer than it should have, or there's a bunch of things that you can. The computer is infinitely rigid. The machines are not so. So
Yeah, that's so
um,
true.
yeah, so yeah, like the people that learned the most at my first job, like when I was programming for them, I had a setup guy who would come over and like as the code was going, would be reading it and seeing what the machine was doing and starting to learn G code that way. And don't let anybody tell you that you don't need to learn G code. Like learn G code because it will help you talk to the machine correctly. Like I know there's a lot of people listening, and I know there's a lot of people that I've talked to that don't know G code as well as they wish they did, and like you're never gonna waste your time learning G code. I don't think.
Yeah, it's the language.
Yeah.
Let's see.
Um,
What?
and then NYDLS, his second question was, how hot is it in our shops? And we kind of touched on that last time too. It's like 107 outside every day, but
Jeez.
it's like 80 degrees in my shop with the swamp cooler, so it's really not that bad at all.
Oh, that's not bad. Yeah, with Washington being so bipolar, like today it's raining and yesterday was sunny. So, like, I don't know, 50, 60 inside. Some days it's 80. Some days it's
I like
even
that
less.
80 is your hot day.
Yeah, dude, I'm sweating.
um, and then last one was from Ferrotech, and he said, "Do you put the water from your dehumidifier, or I guess what's it called, air dryer, back into your coolant?" And I definitely don't.
Yeah.
I just toss it. Like mine comes out. I don't have a dehumidifier, but for my air dryer, which I guess is the same thing, it comes out kind of like rusty sometimes, or
Yep.
like colored, and it's got some oil in it. Like it's not worth it. I just dump it.
Yep. Same here.
So that takes care of listener questions. Thanks everybody for contributing.
Yeah.
Thanks for reaching out. It's like I really enjoy talking to you, Peyton, but it's always cool to have like questions that I never would have thought of bringing up. So
Like the
I really,
burrito and the Sasquish.
yeah, Sasquatches. um, and yeah, so that was, thanks again, everybody. We really appreciate it. You guys are the best. Thanks for listening.
Yeah.
And
Next week,
remember,
we've got
yep.
John coming on, and yeah, there's going to be a lot of questions. So, John, if you're listening to this, get ready. Um, and we'll be talking to him next week. That'll be our 1 year, more or less, close enough. But
Yeah, it'll be episode 52. I think we started technically in July, so maybe we'll do some kind of giveaway or something in July.
yep.
Um, maybe I think you still have some T-shirts in inventory, and if you do, maybe we'll just pull whatever's left and give them away or something like that.
Yeah, I have a couple people that I know would be willing to give some or donate some stuff to give away too. So I think we could actually come up with something pretty cool.
Yeah. Let's chat about it more, and we'll come up with something. But yeah, next week, Grimsmo. Thanks again, everybody, for listening. Once again, if this is your first time listening, I'm Dylan. He's Peyton. Proteum Machining is me on Instagram. He is BrickTactical and BrickTactical.mfg. And yeah, thanks for joining the crew.
All right, guys, see you next week.